Welcome back to the Press Club. We were talking about the polls on Monday. I had an interesting conversation with one of our colleagues from Grenada, Mr. Depredine. We were talking about him off air.
Toro.
And we were talking about Caribbean politics, something that you've brought up before. And he was saying elections in the Caribbean happen too frequently. It's interrupting what is needed, which is continuity. We're talking about the expectations of the government. That was the topic for the Voice newspaper today. The Olympus has fallen, looking at all the reasons why the SLP failed and looking forward to the challenges that the UWP will face as it enters office. And he was making the point.
What's an Olympus?
Seat of power.
Okay, I thought it was a camera.
He made the point, an interesting point, that 5-year terms perhaps are not enough for Caribbean governments. Something we can discuss as well. First year in office, you're settling in, adjusting to the situation, which the Voice pointed out, looking at getting a better appreciation of the picture, because there's this old saying that distance lends enchantment to the view. When you're out of office, you see things a certain way, but when you're in office and have to deal with them and confronted with them, a totally different issue. So the first year you spend adjusting and settling in. So in essence, the last year is spent preparing for elections. So he's saying, basically, Caribbean governments have 3 years within which to accomplish what they promised in their manifestos and in the election campaign. Agree or disagree?
It is a real factor to be considered, and if we are to say it that way, how would we assess U.S. elections that are 4 years 4 years away, although they are set? In the case of Venezuela, it's a 6-year term for the presidency, 6 years. So you have terms ranging from 4, 5, and 6. We're talking about setting a set election date. To do that, we would also have to consider these things, how long a term is should be. I think that it has more to do with, and these are real factors, but given the way we have fought elections and the system in which we've done it since 1951, we've been caught in the 5-year cycle. And as Toro pointed out, you chisel up 2, then you only have 3. But in that 3, you got to chisel off the last one as well to prepare for the upcoming election.
Isn't that why you chisel off the last year in the first place?
Pardon?
That's how we got down to 3.
Yeah. No, but I think that it has more to do the weakness of the system can better be seen at the regional level, where you have CARICOM as one unit with 15 independent member states, and there are at least 2 elections per year. Now, what that does is that it disrupts continuity. For example, St. Lucia is going to be have a new government at the next CARICOM summit in Guyana in July. The last administration agreed to be, and I'll talk about something I'm involved in, the last administration appointed a reparations commission and also was part of the regional approach to decriminalization of marijuana. Mr. Shastri and the UWP are going to have to decide what their positions are, whether they are going to join the rest of the CARICOM. I mean, it's too late to pull out now because CARICOM has in fact written to the European Union and Britain as a collective on the issue of reparations. So St. Lucia's name is already in the box. But what if Mr. Shastri decides that this whole reparations thing, you know, we don't want to be part of that? If St. Lucia were to pull out, then all fall down. So these are the sort of issues. I think that in the constitutional reform, when we look at the package relating to elections would have to be reviewed to take those things into consideration. I would only say that 3 years is not too little time to deliver. I think what lengthens the time is governments deciding how they want to deliver, at what point they want to deliver. The Labour Party, for example, has been accused, and I don't think that that is so, has been accused of launching major projects in the last week before elections. All of the major projects which the SLP have been mentioning have been in the cards for a long time. How long, at what time do you want to open the hospital? Should we see an empty hospital. We see an empty building that is completed with equipment in it, but it's not open. Why isn't it open? Should the government have opened it, unlike some people are saying, open one wing, the diabetes wing, to take care of diabetics, and open it in stages? Or do people understand that the commissioning of a hospital funded by foreign funds, i.e. the European Union, which is putting the majority of the money, has to be done in keeping with their rules, in keeping with their standards, and therefore you don't just say, hello, I open my hospital. So I think that 3 years is enough to do things. I think that if a government decides it wants to create employment, it has to choose how it's going to create that employment. There are people who say just bring a bunch of factories here and send people to work in factories. There are others who will tell you that that is not sustainable because, if the factory closes down, everybody goes home. So governments, I think what lengthens the length of time it takes for governments to deliver is not a limited amount of time available between elections, whether it's 3, 4, 5 years or 6, but the choices that governments make in terms of how they will go about delivering on their promises. So that you can decide, as ought to be the case and as people expect, you start delivering from day one. I had a lady call me on Tuesday morning to tell me she just came from the supermarket and we still have VAT. I asked her, well, what she expected. She said, well, they said the thing said from the day after the election you won't have VAT. I also said to other persons that electorates are that way. They vote for change. And when they vote for change, they want to see that change. So all of the things that people voted against the Labour Party for, whether they voted against Kenny Anthony or whether they voted against the pace at which they felt money in their pockets, or whether they voted against the pace at which, or the speed with which, or the ease with which they could say, I want a new job, all of that will have to be taken into consideration, and therefore the new administration is going to be expected to deliver as fast as the previous administration was expected to deliver.
Perhaps even faster.
Or even faster, because like I said in an article in today's Voice, we're still polls and polls apart, because I still stand on the elections show people vote party, they stand behind their party. Today we will have the the proverbial 100 days of peace, and allowing the new government to settle, etc., etc. All of that will come into play. But you and I know that from Monday night, during and after the counting, everybody was back in their camp. All UWPs were glad, all Labourites were vexed, and as we speak today, it would be safe to assume that most Labourites want to see the government fail, and all UWPs want to see it succeed. And until we can find a way to engage in that exercise that Toro is concerned about, the ability to reach that half, and that's across the region, it's not just in Lucia. Half of Caribbean people don't vote, and don't participate in the democratic process. Yet they will be and are affected by the decisions taken. And unfortunately, more than half of those who don't vote still complain when things don't go the way they would like to see it. And that is because they don't see the correlation between their vote and what is happening in the country. They see themselves, they see their vote as a piece of paper cast for Kenny Anthony or Alan Shastri to become prime minister. But they don't sufficiently see it that if I also have a right to hold it back. And there is a reason why they're all coming to me, because that vote means more to them than it means more to me. And unfortunately, too many of us see the vote as the thing the politician wants than something valuable that we have, that they need. And therefore, if we understand better the value of that vote, whether we see it as an X or a piece of ballot paper or the entire voting process, the reason, folks, why you become that important at elections and you're made to feel you are the prime minister, each and every one of us is a prime minister on election day, is because that ballot, that vote is what makes not the prime minister, not the government, but the country turn or don't turn.
Yep. On that note, Mr. Bousquet, thanks for being here.
As always.
As always.
But I must tell you that I advocated in The Voice today that somehow we should use the next 100 days as 100 Days of Solitude, which was the name of a book written by Gabriel Macar Marquez, a Latin American poet who is a friend of Derek Walcott's. I really would like to see us use the 100 Days of Solitude to reflect, project, plan, and, you know, ask ourselves whether we are satisfied with the process we have just gone through, and to see how it goes. I am also going to observe my 100 days of solitude. I don't know how long my 100 days will last, but one of the good things about the election results, good things for me, is that I finally have time to do all of those things I've wanted to do for myself professionally and just have never had the time. So at least until the end of my next 100 days, I'll be doing things in solitude.
Okay. But you still make time for us. Thank you very much for being here, Mr. Bousquet. Thank you for viewing. Hopefully you'll join us next week for another program. This has been the Press Club. Have a good weekend.